Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then please subscribe. Don't forget to like and share your thoughts on what you think about this video. With that said, let's get into the video. In this video, Farakhan shares a lot of things about Libya, but most importantly, he exposes the real truth and reason behind the West unaliving Gaddafi. Colonel Muammar Gaddafi is known in popular memory as the long-time dictator of Libya who was later unalived in 2012. Now, his legacy is remembered with both progress and brutality, but in this video we focus on his positive impact to Libya and Africa at large, which then became a threat for people in the West, leading to his unaliving. Now, this is really an amazing video, so stay glued as I share this interesting video of Farakhan sharing all these things I've mentioned.
Why do you think they killed him? You think they killed him because he killed his people? Hell no. They killed him because, listen to me real good. You touched my nerve with that question. Did you know that in Libya, nobody is homeless? Listen, everybody in Libya has either a home or an apartment. They call it a flat. Did you know education in Libya is free from kindergarten through college? And did you know that if a Libyan wanted to come to America to be educated, the government in Libya paid for their education? Did you know that? I was there when he opened a $500 million hospital with 18 theaters for operation. I was there, and we went when he was making their own medicines. See, this was a man that gave free medical attention to all the citizens of Libya, and if Libya did not offer that kind of medical attention, they could fly anywhere in the world and get it, and the Libyan government would pay for it. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Did you know that from the oil money, every Libyan citizen got a stipend every year? And did you know that that man had no debt? Everything in his country was paid for. See? Now, when you got a man that did that for an African nation and was trying to do that for all Africa, how do you think Europe felt about that? Well, I was with Muammar Gaddafi when Gaddafi insert in 1999 advanced coming out of the OAU to the African Union with a vision of the United States of Africa. Muammar Gaddafi spent, listen to me, billions of dollars to create the African Union. Did you know that Gaddafi gave $300 million and the other African nations gave $100 million to put up a satellite so that we who call Africa don't have to go through Europe to get to Africa? And Europe was getting $500 million a year just by our telephone calls to the continent. Now we can call directly to Africa, and that $500 million is in the hand of African people. Did you know that Muammar Gaddafi was setting up an African development bank with $70 billion in the African development bank from Libyan oil money? That we would not have to borrow money from the IMF and the World Bank at these exorbitant rates. Zero interest under Islamic non-usury teachings. I just left St. Kitts, and in the island of St. Kitts, he was going to set up a Caribbean Development Bank. He told the Prime Minister there, and he was going to put $1 billion in that bank for Caribbean development.
Gaddafi cuts the figure of a stereotypical dictator, but the truth of this human being is of course far more complex. He ruled over Libya for more than 4 decades, and while reviled in the Western media, Gaddafi serves as a figure both loved and hated in his home country throughout history. Now his story, his life, his rule, and the nature of his unaliving speak volumes of who he was and the nature of the enemies he made. Libya gained its independence in 1951 as the United Kingdom of Libya under the autocratic rule of King Idris, a pro-Western monarch. Now, education was not free and Gaddafi's family was poor. Nevertheless, Gaddafi was sent to school. He was a hardworking child and recognized the financial strain that his schooling brought on his family. He applied himself and advanced 6 grades in only 4 years. During the evenings, he would sleep on the floor of a mosque, and on the weekends, he would walk 20 miles to visit his grandparents. Following his success at the primary school level, Gaddafi was enrolled in a secondary school, which was a luxury neither of his parents had received. Now, his family moved to south central Libya, where his father worked as a caretaker for a tribal leader. While at school, Gaddafi was exposed to many ideologies, and many of his teachers were Egyptian. He found great respect for the Egyptian president, Gamal Nasser, and sympathized with his beliefs and policies, and Gaddafi emerged from his schooling with solid political views and supported the ideas of Arab nationalism and socialism. He rejected the ideas of colonialism, neocolonialism, Western imperialism, and Zionism. Gaddafi became politically active, and in October 1961, he led a demonstration against Syria's secession from the United Arab Republic. In 1963, Muammar Gaddafi joined the military and started training at the Royal Military Academy. Now, King Idris' rule had become deeply unpopular in Libya throughout the 1960s. Corruption had weakened his leadership and Arab nationalism was on the rise. Libyan people started objecting to the pro-Western stance of the government, and riots broke out in Tripoli and Benghazi. Following the defeat of Egypt in the Six-Day War, many Libyans sympathized with Egypt, and protests in solidarity with Egypt became widespread. The next few years was Gaddafi consolidating his power, and the Central Committee of the Free Officers Movement became the Revolutionary Command Council, which immediately began purging the government of monarchists. His early rule was fraught with danger, and in 1970, Gaddafi survived 2 coup attempts. Now, Libya's transformation into a respectable economy needed a significant boost in several key sectors. Gaddafi's new government launched a green revolution to transform the agricultural sector. Farms were built and irrigation systems were installed along the Libyan coast. However, Gaddafi's attention to the oil industry transformed the country's economy completely. All foreign oil producers in the country had 51% of their operations nationalized. By 1979, Libya's per capita income was higher than industrialized countries like Italy and the UK. The money generated through this enterprise went towards social welfare programs such as improving healthcare, education, and housing. Malaria was eradicated. Compulsory education was implemented along with adult literacy programs and free university education. These programs provided immensely popular with the Libyan people, and Muammar Gaddafi quickly became a beloved figure. Let's now look at the main reason why Gaddafi was unalived. 2021 marks the 10-year anniversary of NATO's violent intervention in Libya and the unaliving of Muammar Gaddafi. As was suspected at the time and was later shown in the published emails of Hillary Clinton, NATO acted to prevent Gaddafi founding an African central bank with its own gold-backed currency. Now, that institution would have challenged the power of the dollar and finally allowed Africa to escape its colonial shackles, writes Ellen Brown. Now, it was thanks to the 2016 publication of Hillary Clinton's emails that the reason behind NATO's entry into Libya was revealed. It was to prevent the creation of an independent hard currency in Africa that would free the continent from its economic bondage under the dollar, the IMF, and the French African franc. That hard currency would have allowed Africa to shake off the last heavy chains of colonial exploitation. Now, when we look at Libya before 2011, Libya had achieved achieved economic independence with its own water, its own food, its own ore, its own money, and its own state-owned bank. It had arisen under Gaddafi from one of the poorest of the countries to the richest in Africa. Education and medical treatment were free, having a home was considered a human right, and Libyans participated in an original system of local democracy. The country boasted the world's largest irrigation system, the Great Man-Made River Project, which brought water from the desert to the cities and coastal areas, and Gaddafi was embarking on a program to spread this model throughout Africa. But that was before US NATO forces beat the irrigation system and wreaked havoc on the country. Now, during the term of President Obama, the situation on the ground in Libya was so bad that he asked his advisors to draw up options, including a new military front in Libya. The Defense Department was reportedly standing ready with the full spectrum of military operations required. Now, the Secretary of State's victory lap was indeed premature if what we're talking about is the officially stated goal of humanitarian intervention. But Clinton's emails revealed another agenda behind the Libyan war. That one, it seems, was achieved. Now, of the 3,000 emails released from Hillary Clinton's private email server in late December 2015, one of these emails dated April 2nd, 2011 read in part, Gaddafi's government holds 143 tons of gold and in a smaller amount in silver. This gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish a Pan-African currency based on the Libyan golden dinar. Now, this plan was designed to provide the Francophone African countries with an alternative to the French franc CFA. Now, basically, this is the main reason why they unalived Gaddafi. They saw him as a threat and they knew that it would have been over for them if he succeeded with his plans. Now, I'm only imagining how Africa would have been by now if that happened. They're really bent on holding Africa in bondage because they always want the continent to be beggars, always depending on the IMF, and always want to keep Africa in an economic bondage. We have come to the end of the video. Kindly share your thoughts on this video. Thank you for watching.